This week, I'm taken to the extreme levels of ecchi.
And I answer the question, wait, aren't those two related? Hi, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Garrett, and we watch anime.
Garrett, I wanted you to expand your horizons this week and explore the full ecosystem of what anime has to offer. It's got its many nooks and crannies. Much like a rainforest, we can explore the majesty and history of shows universally acclaimed by the masses. But other times, we have to be thorough and check under the rocks and show the underbelly of this anime culture. This is that episode. We will be explaining the unexplainable, defending the undefendable, the surprisingly eclectic world of ecchi manga centered on the brother-sister complex, or as we're titling it this episode, Legend of Onii-chan! Before we get started, give us a 1 to 2 trailer explainer of what we're going to be talking about today, what you kind of took from the episode.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. You're showing me all of the nooks and crannies that a pair of siblings could show one another.
They're showing each other's nook and crannies. You shouldn't be doing that until at least you're 18. So, so what happens is that I gave you, this is another explainer, meaning that we're going to be doing multiple series. I try to get you to do about 2 episodes each because I know for me, it's after 2 episodes, I'm pretty much done with most of these series.
It was enough.
It was enough. It was like, you could just be like, okay, and you can like close your laptop after 2 versions of it. It also makes, I don't want the algorithm on my Crunchyroll to get too crazy. So to start, the idea is that ecchi, harem anime, romance anime, for some reason, one of the archetypes for a lot of times that's really hard to explain is like the prevalence of incestual relationships. And so instead of like nipping at the corners of it, we just dove into the ones that really highlighted the Onii-chan episode. So, but tell me, which animes did we cover today? Which episodes are we going to be talking about?
The first one, and arguably the most disturbing one, was Brother Love.
Yes.
Following Brother Love was Eromanga-sensei.
Right.
And finally was, if I get the name correct here, Testament of a Sister New Devil.
Yes, Testament of Sister New Devil.
Totally has to be the direct translation of whatever that
right
title is.
It definitely was, and Brother Love has a much longer title, which we'll get into in a second. But so what happens a lot of times is that there's a lot of stuff that I don't think will ever cross over into the threshold of a Western audience really understanding, but I think it's no less important for you to understand. Before we start with those anime that we talked about, we're going to go anime by anime this week. Is that I understand the idea of how people talk to each other, what the suffixes are all about, what the wordage is all about. So if you have a older brother or sister, you still have to revere them at a higher level. Your suffixes are going to reflect that. The O in Onii-chan or One-san or something like that symbolizes an honorable. So you're saying, this is my honorable brother or sister. So when you're Onii-chan, the ni part's the brother, and chan is like a way of being cutesy with the name. So it's kind of like being, my sweet older brother who I love so much, that kind of stuff. So it gives a lot of reverence to it. So I know for a Western audience, you're not going to pick that up, but it's also a word you're going to hear ad nauseum through these episodes. So much so that I wanted to make sure that we gave that just enough context. We got Onii-chan, which is male, One-san, which is older sister. We got imotos, which are younger sisters, and the ototos, which are younger brothers. That relationship aside, we're really focusing on the older brother to younger sister relationship.
Right.
So to start, we are going to...
It feels so dirty to talk about.
I know, seriously. It's weird that we're going to be diving into this. I know most people are like thinking, like, why did they even bother with this? In my mind, I feel like you're going to bump into this. And I wanted you to at least like get your calluses, right? It's like guitar playing. You got to get some bumps and bruises. You got to get some blisters first before you can get your proficiency down. This is you developing calluses for watching anime, specifically the dirtier stuff. So the first anime we started with, and this is a nice test of my ability to speak Japanese, is Onii-chan dakedo aisai areba kanke nai no ne, which means in English, as long as there's love, it doesn't matter if he's my brother, right? And then in parentheses, it should be like, tee-hee. But what we call it is it's brother love or OniAi, which is what we're going to shorten it to. So if you want to say either of those, that's fine. Garrett, first question. We're going to start each of these episodes with the first question. Does Akiko, the main heroine, love her Onii-chan?
She loves him real bad.
How much does she love him, Garrett?
She loves them in a way that is unexplainable and, as you stated, undefendable.
Because I don't think she just loves him. She very explicitly...
She's obsessed with him.
She's obsessed with it and explicitly wants to have sex with him.
Right.
Knowing full well that they are...
So I won't put the cart before the horse, but as we watched 3 of these types of shows,
right.
As you said previously, some shows kind of touch on this complex, the brother love. Some touch, some like dive a little more deeply.
Especially when there's cousins, it's a little bit more, not that big of a deal.
This one is driving a semi-truck down the highway of doing her brother. and no amount of like emergency off-road stop.
It's going to slow that truck.
It's going to slow that truck down. She is full steam ahead, going to do her brother.
And not only that, but like, it was kind of a curveball when you watch it, so I'll let you give me a full synopsis.
Right. So essentially, it's very superficial. It does not matter. Points mean nothing.
Yes.
Akiko, from what I gather in the first episode, I don't know if she was separated from her brother. And here's a big distinction. This is the one that I picked up. I think they're blood.
They are. They're actually twins.
Yes, they're twins.
So,
and that's we'll get to this later, but this is straight on like sibling. So they're separated for 6 years. Right. I'm just gonna guess their parents divorced.
Yeah.
And
nowhere to be found for the most part.
yeah. And so 6 years later, they move in together, right?
Yeah.
At this dormitory at school, which again, one of the very first episodes you gave me had to do with it was Monster House.
Yeah.
And you told me about this sort of plot line that they like to do where they put a single male and surround him with like 5 or 6 women, and each of them has specific character traits and goes from one to the other. Yeah. So for whatever reason, they're both 16. And again, it's creepy, but if they could just make them 18 years old, I think I'd find it a fraction less creepy.
Just slightly less creepy.
But they move in together at this school in a dormitory, and it's Akito, the male, and his sister, and Akiko, 3 other women living in this dormitory. And they're now going to school together because I guess she's living with him and his side of the family now. And she follows him around like a puppy dog. And like a puppy dog, she is humping his leg the entire time. And she is not hiding this at all. Like, look, growing and evolving, sexuality is a spectrum. I don't know. I'm trying to be really understanding here.
Garrett, I'm wanting to see how far you can take this reel before we have to hit the switch.
But sometimes when you feel things, you shouldn't say them. And
she's walking around school going like, I want to have sex with my brother.
Right. She's in like the locker room, again, gratuitous butt cheek scene.
Right.
And she's talking to her 2 friends, and she's like, I can't stop thinking about my cute brother. And they're like, you've been like this since you got here.
Yeah, the fact that everybody is nonplussed about this fact, like the fact that she has friends is just bizarre to me. Some things that like popped out to me was the first episode threw me for a loop because she comes off the train station. She's a bumbling girl. She's like, tee-hee. She puts her ticket in the wrong side. She drops her book. She does all this stuff. And she's there like, hi there, brother. Like, I'm assuming she's a kudere. Like, if you were to ask me, like, a dandere, I'm thinking she's the shy, stumbling, bumbling girl.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, this is who this girl is. She's going to be the cute little shy little sister, right? But then she kind of like, you kind of see that that's an act by the time she gets to the time where he's like, hi, brother, I'm going to go take a bath now, tee-hee. And she goes into a bath, and she's assuming that he's going to follow her.
To take a peek.
Yeah, and that he specifically was going to take a peek. And this was another thing I saw. I've been watching anime now for more than 20 years. I'm still shocked when I actually see nipples.
Yes, nipples underwater.
I was like, okay, what? Because I've been so trained to, like, when there is nipples about to be shown, there's usually, like, steam coming out, or there's usually, like, a well-placed, cloud, or they're covering just, like, the areola specifically. Like, there's usually, like, a faint trace of coverage. This was just, like, it's like, Beth, sing along to the cute song and nipple. And I was like, whoa.
Right.
I'm always shocked still.
So she starts, like, falling asleep in there, and she storms out of the bath because he said, hey, why don't you take a bath? I'll hop in after you.
Right.
He's waiting for her to get out, like a normal person.
Like a normal human being, yes.
And so she storms into the room in a towel, and she's like, are you telling me you had no intention of coming and looking at me? And he's like, that would be correct. Never crossed my mind. And the best part of the show, if you can get past the real hard creepiness of it, is his reactions to everything. Like, she's just, like, begging him to sleep in her bed.
Yeah, she's like, oh, it's okay. We don't have to sleep in the same bed together. So that means we're going to do it on the floor, right? And he's like, closed door.
yes, which I want to get to that. But he goes, at one point he goes, I will be blunt. There's no way in hell. But to your point with the door closing, one thing, and I don't want to give the person who wrote the story very much credit because they're sick, dirty people, but in this show, the musical cues were phenomenal.
I love the musical cues. I was thinking to myself when I was watching, going like, I really enjoy this music. In fact, you're not going to hear it here, Garrett, but I'm going to give us a little interlude to talk about more about this show with the song playing in it right now. Was my cue. So Garrett, as we smoothly listen to the dulcet jazz of this song here and stuff like that, what I wanted to talk to you about was the introduction of the harem. Right? We're introduced to the harem, and instead of normally how you said where we get one girl, two girls, three girls, we literally get like a potato gun shot at a cage in which we meet all of the girls at once. Like, she's like, why are all these girls here all of a sudden? No! Right. And we meet all the different characters that are in there. The first, by the way, did you see the theme song at all?
Hold on, I had a note here. Yes. Okay.
With the recorder. The recorder's thing was like
under the desk.
Yes. Talk about it, Gary. Go. This is your cue. So, music is good. I'm going to still have this music playing. Go ahead.
So let's give a little bit of background on the other girls that he moves in with, along with his sister.
Right.
So the first one is there's this kind of like this homie girl, like she's the one who cooks dinner, and she's
like the girl next door character.
I think she's trying to get to him through like his stomach, and like probably the most normal of the other ones.
She's like the girl next door character. That's her archetype. She's like the
then there's another one who looks like she's straight out of Sailor Moon with the white shirt and the white hair, and what's the dere that is just very like even keel?
That's a kudere.
She's a kudere, right?
She's a 100% quintessential kudere. With like the eyes are the what tells it. It's usually the
yeah. So she's like, I mean, like, who's gonna sit next to him at dinner and feed the glutton? And he's like, I can feed myself. No one's talking to you, glutton. And
yeah, she gives you gluttonous pig. Yeah, and then, you like that.
And then there's the bombshell who inexplicably has a frickin' eye patch.
And she exclusively says, I'm a gal. So she's the Garu character. She's the Mito from Megumi Mito from Food Wars. That like girl that's very like, she talks very like, hello, how you doing, big man. She
locks him into in the library, and she's like, so you want to be my sex slave?
I know, it's they literally shoot you in the face with the edginess in the show.
So going back to the theme song, I don't think the theme song for the first episode had this, but for the second one,
yes,
they started to get really weird. So like, there's like a profile image of him at his school desk,
and he's just sitting there,
and the kudere, her head is underneath. Oh no, maybe it wasn't the kudere.
No, it was the kudere. It was the pigtail kudere. Yeah.
And her head is like very clearly filleting him.
Yes.
And then he moves his chair back, and she's playing a recorder.
She's playing the recorder, like. I remember being like, I gotta talk to Gary about that part. Because there's things that shock me, Garrett. This thing, like the fact that it shocked you, trust me, for a fan like me, it still like was like, whoa, they're doing this.
Right. And again, like, I feel like whoever wrote this anime, when he went home for the Japanese version of Thanksgiving, his sister was like, is there something we need to talk about? Because the lead female, Akiko, she goes into she's like, I'm a brocon.
Yes.
You know what that is? And her brother's like, lovely day we're having.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, a brocon. I love my brother. He's like, this miso soup, delicious.
Like, take a hint, lady. Like, and whenever she's being perverted, she has that laugh, like, when she's clearly fapping in her bedroom to this. So here's the thing. This actually gets me to a real point. So a lot of times these erotic things, and what we'll kind of talk about more with the Eromanga, is these usually come in the form of what's called light novels. Now, talked about manga, which is exclusively a graphic novel. You've read those before. Anime is the cartoon that usually follows the manga. Light novels are basically books with intermittent manga in between. And a lot of times it's for women, and a lot of times it's meant to be kind of like erotic thrillers. Kind of like
Danielle Steele.
Yeah, it's basically our Danielle Steele with like little anime in the middle. But it's also could be for boys. It's like, it can be like literotic a lot of times. Sometimes it's not, but a lot of times it is. And so it's kind of a way to like show that this was a light novel. This was something that was intended to be a Danielle Steele novel. That's why everything is so abrupt. That's why everything shoots you in the face, because they don't have like the length of a full-length book to get to places. They have to kind of just send it to you right away. So question, Garrett, as we move on from this show. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this on the scale?
17.3.
If you could like double do a chorus of like, so we're saying that's extra on the like so much so that you're like swatting the air in front of you.
Yeah.
She does like it.
Because again, like as we'll find out in later shows, a lot of times when they mess with this brother complex,
right,
it's a step sibling
or someone that just like randomly shows up the family and we're adopting them.
Right. So and of course, look, if you go, not that I've ever been, but I've heard that if you go to Pornhub or any of those, any website like that, people freely play with the whole step sibling, our parents got married, otherwise it wouldn't be such a big deal thing. People fetishize that like crazy. Yeah. But this show, to go blood twin sibling, now I have read that in real life, I don't know how to put this, but if like siblings are separated very, very young, and later in life they somehow come together, but they don't know that they're siblings, but they come across each other, they can have a high attraction to one another. I don't mean to give any of you light novelists.
You don't apply Jung to this character. You can't apply Freudian psychology to this. This guy's just a perv, Garrett. We just got to leave it at that. So, Garrett, what I'm going to do for each of these, because I thought, it's hard to put to words what these things mean to people. Who is this for? So I decided to enlist the help of my anime list to look up the reviews for these shows. And there is one anime, this particular anime for OniAi. This guy wrote I put it in a word count, 1,248 words explainer on how much that included quotes for Sophocles and Confucius. I will read a paragraph from that review.
Okay.
Curtain up. The reason why I started this review with a quote from the great Roman tragedian Sophocles is simple. As long as there's love, it doesn't matter if he's my brother, right? Is a tragedy. In the end, Akito is unable to make the right choice, is unable to love his little sister, and is unable to uphold family values within the household. The ending of this story is perhaps the very saddest in literature, as the heart of any viewer would wrench during the highly emotional climax and somber aftermath. And after everything, when we realize that this little sister will never truly know the love of her older brother, we will also realize that as Akito is doomed, Western civilization is as well. That was the review for this show. Do you concur, Garrett?
I think the author of that comment is 48 years old and lives in his mom's basement.
Still... Okay, so we're moving on to the next one.
I just want to know, because for those out there, for the handfuls and handfuls of you out there following us, in the last episode, we discussed one of the all-time great animes, One Piece, and Kyle had his wife review them. Did your wife happen to see any of these?
I remember walking to the bathroom while she was like doing her hair, and I go, "I'm gonna let you know that I'm doing it. Our next episode is going to be on brother sister complex." She goes, "Gross," and that was the last thing we talked about. So,
okay,
that was pretty much it. So I was like, "Yeah, it's not going to work." And so for me, another thing I just also want to point out, I did not watch OniAi until we did this show. So I was looking at brother sister complex, and it came out of the Testament Sister New Devil, which I watched, and I wanted to see if there's more like it. So know that for me, this is not a common thing for me. It's hard as it to believe that me bringing up this topic.
This is all in the name of science.
This is all in the name of science. It's for true study. In fact, we're going to continue on our study. We have to go through our manipulative variables on our scientific test. Okay. We're now going to be talking about Eromanga-sensei.
Yes.
Which was a manga from 2014. The anime was created in 2017. This was also a light novel.
Right, which, by the way, if I may interject, yes. New Devil's Testament Sister and
yeah, that works.
And Eromanga-sensei, the animation was light years better than Brother Love.
Right. OniAi was made in 2010 with the anime in 2011, so it is the oldest one.
Oh, that's not that big a difference. Kind of
right, and also you kind of see there's also a cap to how far the Brother Love complex mangas went, because they kind of got to like midway through the 2010s, and it was like, all right, we're done with these. So let's talk about Eromanga-sensei. The first question, just like I asked the last time, Garrett, does Sagiri, the main heroine, love her Onii-chan?
This one is less clear. She does, but this is an interesting relationship between
Masamune is
brother and sister, and of the three shows we watched, by far it's the least sexual. So again, this is step siblings, and as best I can gather, a year and a half ago, she was brought to the house by her mom because her mom was marrying Masume's dad. Yes, Masamune. So Sagiri's mom was marrying Masamune's dad. Right. And upon that first meeting, Masamune, he was a young guy. I got the impression he was like freaking 11.
Yeah, I mean, who knows these people?
So he sees her, and he thinks she's like this cute little girl. But immediately he says, "Welcome to your home. I'm your brother." Or she says, "Hi, big brother." So you think they're going to have this wonderful relationship. Well, apparently some tragedy happened, because Sagiri doesn't come out of her room now. And there are no guardians.
No adults. Once again, we're in a situation. Let's
leave these. At one point, someone in episode 2 says, "Aren't there any adults around?" And he goes, "Yeah, we have a guardian who's basically never here."
There's like, let's inexplicably, like, pubescent teenagers, let's just leave them together. Yeah, nothing really wrong could come from this.
Right. So Masamune is so
what's crazy is that this is a light novel about a light novel artist group, basically.
So Sagiri becomes completely introverted. She doesn't leave her room, and if she does leave her room, it's clearly when Masamune is not at the house, because he brings her all of her meals, and he says, "Will you come out? I want to see your face." You know, he leaves these beautiful trays outside the door and all these meals. In the meantime, he's trying to go to school, don't know who's paying the bills, and he is trying to make some money on the side, so he is a published author of light novels. As Kyle mentioned before, light novels are maybe 70-80% writing, 30% manga tucked in there. And his have this really beautiful artwork. However, he is not the artist. He is the writer, but he hooked up with someone on the internet who likes to call themselves Eromanga, which kind of creeps him out a little bit, but this person is an incredibly talented artist and draws these sultry, seductive, amazing images, and really people, I guess, are buying his book. I mean, his writing is so-so, but the artwork is really what they're after.
What they're selling, right.
So, you know, one day he drops off yet another meal to his sister, and he leaves a little note on her thing, as he always does, and he's rushing to get to his room because he's never met his artist.
Right.
You know, but someone at school, a friend of his, who somehow at like 12 years old owns a manga shop, tells him that that artist is going to be streaming that night.
Right.
So he logs on and he watches the stream.
By the way, like a creepy, like I'm not kidding you, if I would not watch a stream in which a person who draws like perverted animated girls wearing this like crazy like, you know, doll mask in the middle of a black dark room.
Right.
So she's like, harder, border.
She could have been like Deadmau5 or like a DJ.
Eromanga is the Deadmau5 of erotic animated pictures.
So she's sharing her screen. I'm sorry, the artist is sharing the screen,
right,
and showing the photo. But then they take it down, and she's wearing the mask that Pal said is so creepy. And she goes to log off, and we know it's a she because she stands up and it's dancing. It's clearly a female body,
right?
And she forgets to turn off her video. So there's Masamune watching it. And he starts to put things together, and he sees in the bottom left corner of the image the food tray that he gave his stepsister Sagiri. So now he's like, oh my God, my artist is my sister. Oh my God, she's stripping. And
she didn't know the camera's still on
the camera. Yeah. So he like runs down the hallway with like his laptop in hand. And it turns out his introverted sister is drawing his erotic art. But she refuses to admit she knows the name Eromanga. And when he says the word erotic, she goes, don't you say those dirty words in front of me.
Because if you go into her room, you can tell this girl is going to grow up to have like a unicorn complex. Like she has like the pinkest room with all the girly proponents of it.
Yep.
For agoraphobic, it's actually pretty clean. You know?
Yeah.
For like a person who's like pretty agoraphobic, she's like literally has a nice, very clean room.
He even says that. He goes, wow, it's kind of tidy in here.
Yeah, it's like for a hoarder like you are, I'm surprised I don't see like bottles of pee everywhere.
Yeah.
So she so she's like a very cute little girl who's very much very shy. She's very much the Dandere character, very like quiet and stuttery and all that stuff. She does very
she has to put on an Xbox microphone to speak out of a speaker so he can hear her.
Right. And then the best part's when she calls him Baka and she forgets to take up her microphone. It's like Baka, and it's like creates this huge feedback loop and throughout the house. So Garrett, this show is kind of your introduction to what's kind of known as like the manga writing genre. For some reason, manga writers have gotten so bored with creating new stories for manga that they've created stories about writing manga. And there's a lot of series that follow this.
I know that this is like an attempt to be meta, but that's so stupid.
And the fact that you're allowing like erotic stories from like young teenagers is a little sketchy to say the least, but
yeah.
Whatevs, we got anime. And so yeah, it's usually like a slice of life anime. Usually it's something that has nothing to do with a lot of conflict. But it's just the slice of life about what it is to be a manga artist. Because it is, like, honestly, to be clear, to be a manga artist in Japan is a very hard life. You don't get paid a lot. And while we have a high quality content thought of anime is kind of like considered like cartoons in Japan. So it's not, so it is a really hard life, and there is a story to be told out of that. But in this case, it's like in the form of brother sisters like having a weird relationship with each other.
Right.
So, Garrett, I want to talk about a very WTF moment I had because I want to speak about another character you meet in episode 2. Her name is Megumi, who is the class president, and she gave me multiple what the ever-living moments.
Right. So Megumi is apparently, because clearly Sagiri's locked in a room, she hasn't gone to school.
Hasn't gone to school.
So Megumi stops by, and she presents herself as a school representative.
Yep.
And she's tried to make friends with everyone in class, and it bothers her that she can't make friends with Sagiri.
Right.
Who she doesn't call Sagiri because she doesn't know her that well, and that's her first name, so she calls her Izumi.
Yeah.
So she goes to her house, and at the front door, she immediately is flirting with Masamune.
This is the most bizarre interaction.
And he's not reacting to it, and she's like, "What, does your not work?" And he's like, "Excuse me, what?" She's like, "What? All girls my age, we love." And his
by the way, your sister probably likes. Like, I know I'm gonna have to censor a lot of that.
He goes, "What has happened to Japan?"
I'm like, holy crap! What is happening here? I remember watching this, going like, with my mouth agape, thinking to myself, like, and by the way, she's probably what, 12, 13, maybe?
I don't know, because there's no parents, there's no frame of reference. I don't know how old anyone is.
And she loves that chin chin. Let me tell you. By the way, chin chin means D-I-C-K, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I remember.
But no one in Japan knows what it looks like because they're all digitally like.
Yeah, someone actually pulls down their pants. It's just pixelated. Like, oh, whoa. So that's what that is. So it did look like it does on video.
Oh man.
So then and so she is kind of like the conniving, student representative. She tries to get Sagiri down, but I guess through the factor of her like knowing that Sagiri's speaking to his ear, she like syncs the phone to her phone and then like hides behind her back and makes him admit that he kind of thinks that she's cute, that she's a great drawer, that he
washes her underwear.
Which is another weird thing. Like, this is another thing about
Well, I don't think it's weird that he washes her underwear. I mean, I wash my wife's underwear. I mean...
But you, A, married your wife. B, are not related to your wife. C...
my mom washed my underwear. Like, if it's in the laundry, it's in the laundry. The fact that
he said it was sexy.
Over it.
Yes, he fawns over this underwear, Garrett. It's not just so much like, oh, this is her underwear, boop, throw it in the laundry. It's literally like, you can't compare because I washed my sister's underwear was an interaction that happened within this show. So I was like, gosh darn it, Japan, like, what are you doing to me here? So we get to this show, and we get to another character we meet named Elf Yamada, who dresses up like a lolicon, which is something that I want to explain to you because it's something you're going to hear a few times throughout this show.
I am familiar with the lolicon, but for those watching and listening at home.
So a lolicon is a person who is attracted to young prepubescent children, essentially. And most of the time it's female. And Sagiri is kind of like the lolly character. But Elf Yamada is like intentionally tries to dress like the lolicon character. Usually they're wearing like doll dresses with like, the what's it called? Stockings. Thank God for I finally got to it. The shoes that they were like they had to wear like big pigtails. Right. They're like intentionally trying to be doll-like.
They look like an American Girl doll.
Right, exactly. And there's like a real subculture in Japan on the idea of lolicon, and everywhere else to be exact. But this is like what you'll see in a lot of Japan. So when someone says lolicon, that's what they mean. Like you are someone who is attracted to that. And so that's another weird trope that happens in these shows. One of the things that I do think is weird that you're going to notice is how when there's a show that sexualizes the women of the show, the men tend to dress very vanilla, but the women dress in the craziest things you'll ever see any human being walk out of the house in. Their hair is usually set up with bells and flowers and huge ornate, like they look like crazy, things. Right. So that's another thing I'm always like, why does she look like that? But everybody else looks normal. Like, who can spot the Ecchi heroine? Let's see if you can find her. And she's got like a whole tree in her hair, like that kind of stuff.
Instead of where's Waldo, it's where's Elf Yamada.
Yeah, where's Elf Yamada, right. So, Garrett, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you give this on the factor?
We now drop back down into real numbers.
Below 10, so we're within the 1 to 10 ratio, good.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 9 because he does fawn over his sister's panties a bit too hard, and my guess is in the first... See, with brother love, they throw you right into it.
Yes.
I feel like the awkwardness is going to increase in the show as the episodes go on, as he either grows more fond or they reveal more of her feelings for him. and it's gonna be bad.
Got it. So I'm gonna read the next My Anime List review for
Eromanga-sensei. The same
Sensei.
person?
This is a different person, and the subject is "This show is trash, and so am I." Quote, "I love penis." End quote. Quote, "Then your penis is useless." End quote. Said by a girl who is 12. Quote, "Isn't this in the wrong place?" End quote. I binge watched this, and let me tell you, I've never felt such cringe before. I've never felt like such trash, such like a degenerate ever. This is the kind of anime you can't let certain people know you watched and enjoyed. Those people might include, anyone. Seriously. Seriously, don't let casual fans know you enjoyed this. Also, Elf is the best girl, no contest. Overall, 8 out of 10 would watch again. Say it with me. This show is trash, and so am I.
Terrific review. That review gets a 10.
You concur with that review of
yeah, 100%.
Eromanga-sensei?
Yeah.
All right, so now we're moving into number 3, which I found to be the wildest of the 3 that I sent to you, which is called Shinmai Mao no Testamento, which is Testament of Sister New Devil. I love that name. It's so weird and it's so random. But Garrett, first question: Does the main character Mio love her Onii-chan?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
By episode 2, she's kind of forced to, which is weird.
But again, this starts out really weird.
Right, like it seems like
and then it gets decidedly less weird.
Yes.
But then it gets weird again.
You go on this roller coaster of like the testament of new weird moments.
So show opens.
Yes.
And the lead, Basara, or Tojo Basara, is in a diner with what we're supposed to believe is his father, but looks like his degenerate older brother that just got out of, like, juvie.
And they're all scarred up to no end. So, like, the dad's just like, "Hi, son," and the son's like, "Yes, that's a great idea."
Pube facial hair.
Pubey facial hair and everything.
And I also noted he kept smoking indoors. And I was
That's a very Japanese thing, yeah. That's a very Japanese thing, yeah. They'll smoke in restaurants.
So he says to this kid, to Basara, he's like, "Hey, you didn't know I was dating anyone, but I'm dating this lady, and you're going to get 2 new little sisters out of it." He
started with, "To a teenage boy." I heard you. Didn't you say you wanted a little sister? Which is a little creepy to start with at a diner. Like,
right.
It's very much like he's
and his son is like, "I never said that." He's like, and the son's probably like 15.
Yeah, he's 15.
And he's like, no, you definitely said it like 10 years ago. And he's like, "Why would I remember
that?" And so, much like unveiling that you got a new puppy, this time you're getting yourself a new sister. But she doesn't show up, Garrett. Where did she go?
I don't know, but Basara gets real nervous, and he just has to go to the bathroom, and he neglects to see a sign that says, "Please knock," and he opens it up, and there is a busty redhead. And again, this is not coming from me, but my wife really, she's of Asian descent, she really wonders where all these large-breasted women are supposedly residing at in
Redheads,
Japan.
mind you. Redheaded.
And they all have green eyes.
Right, yeah.
So he goes in, and he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, the lock." And then she looks like she's going to yell. So he runs in, and he covers her mouth and holds her against the wall.
Which is like the worst thing you could do in this situation. The worst. If you had a script on what not to do if you accidentally walked into someone in the bathroom, you don't pin them against the wall with their legs around you and cover their mouth and go, "This is a mistake. Don't tell anyone. Don't say anything. This was an accident."
This is totally innocent.
And he's like literally got her sat on like a radiator, and he's like,
"No, it's the toilet."
On the toilet. He couldn't be in a more assaulting position and try to explain how this is not a big deal. It was like, what are you doing?
So, of course, that's his sister.
Right. That's his sister, New Devil.
And there's another sister who looks like she's like 9.
She's a lolly. She's there to hit that lolicon that quota that we were supposed to have.
So it's really uncomfortable, and the next morning, or maybe it was weeks later, I don't friggin' know.
Right.
But he wakes up, and the one that he walked in on in the bathroom, Mio, is on top of him in short shorts, her breasts heaving, and the zipper's undone on the short shorts, and her panties are coming out. And she's like, I thought all boys your age would want to get, like, woken up like this. And he is freaked out because, okay.
No one does this.
Right.
Ever.
So then she's like, I think I feel something hard. And she goes under the covers, and he's like, I'm not. And he wasn't. It was a porno box that says, here I am living with my new stepsisters to train, or
it's
something.
Like, no, I remember it was my knight and sister in the abandoned lot or something like that.
Yeah.
Crazier.
So he's like, he says under his breath, he's like, how'd this get here? This isn't mine.
How did someone...
So then he trips off the bed and he falls on his sister and she knees him in the nuts. And
so this is my question. He goes
down to the kitchen.
So before we get to this, I wanted to check in with you, Garrett, to see if you're yet sick of the accidental erotic moments. Of the, I fell into you. Like, are you there yet?
No,
I remember when we did the first time?
No, because it served a purpose here. I don't know.
Okay, one day we'll get to that point where you're like, Kyle, I've reached it. I've reached the destination of I'm sick of the accidental sexual moments, but you've now gotten to 2. So let's get a nice little counter at some point of how far we're going to get Garrett into the accidental sexual positions.
So he goes downstairs, and his 8-year-old little sister is making, like, eggs in only a freaking splatter guard and only an apron, and her panties are hanging out the bottom. I'm getting real creeped out at this moment. Like, real creeped out. And then she reveals that she is the one that put the porn in the room because don't you want to know how to train your new young step-siblings? Oh, no, wait. Wouldn't you rather train me in person? And I'm like,
here's the thing. I know. So this is a disclaimer for folks out there. I know it seems like all young
This is
boys.
like, I'm sorry. I felt like Ace Ventura when he finds out Finkel is Einhorn and Einhorn is Finkel.
He's like, ah!
And he's like, he's got the plunger and he's like...
So the fact, this is the thing that I'm... So people out there, yes, young teenagers, are probably at the height of their libido by this point. They're very much interested in the females that are, at that point, heterosexual or identify as such. But it seems like you can't just, like, shove it in their face and be like, oh, they're just boys, that kind of stuff. And that's what this show did, and I was, like, really annoyed by it, that, like, the dad's like, because he's like, Dad, these girls are literally sexually harassing me for the most part. And your dad's like, you're a boy, you can deal with it. And I was like, gosh.
Yeah.
What are you doing, man?
Without getting into the social consequences and the politics of it, do you know how there's been, like, the pushback against the term, like, boys will be boys?
Right.
I actually do believe that boys will be boys, but someone put it so perfectly on the internet. Yeah. They're like, boys will be boys is not how they treat women. Boys will be boys is when your sons cover the slip and slide in mayo and run down it into, like, an... like, that's boys will be boys.
Right.
Like, all those stupid idiots.
Right.
Not exactly. Like, don't do anything illegal with your stepsisters.
Right. Yes, I think this is an exception to that rule. But it's like he's not doing anything wrong. They're just, like, consistently accosting him. Like, legit accosting this man. Yeah. And so I guess we find out that that gods are real, that spirits are real, that demons are real.
All of a sudden, if this wasn't there's a So Mio, the busty redhead, she gets walked in on in the bathroom. Then she assaults him in bed. Then she almost gets assaulted outside of a convenience store, and
people can't stop assaulting.
And Basara kind of comes to the rescue, and they get out of there, and she softens to him, and she's not forgiving him entirely, but she softens to him.
Right.
But they have this moment at the convenience store where a bunch of guys try and accost Mio, and Basara comes to the rescue, and he brings her to his favorite lookout point, which is a romantic thing to do. But whatever. But she's softening to the idea of him, not completely forgiving him. So they get home, and Basara's father is like, "Oh, I'm a photographer, and being a freelancer, I need to be responsible, so I'm flying to Dubai. Watch out for your 2 younger sisters." And Basara's like, Jesus Christ, man. I'm dodging breasts all over the place. Like, so the father leaves, and Basara goes back inside, and the lights go out, and it gets murdery real quick.
Right.
And he walks into a room, and when you walk into a room and someone is sitting there waiting to talk to you, but they're not facing you.
They're just like looking out the window. Hi there, Basara.
Run.
Run.
Nothing,
I don't care how many accidental boob grabs you had out of that. You get out of that house.
Nothing
it's a trap.
good. Nothing.
It's a trap.
Colonel Akbar.
Yeah. It's a trap.
So the little girl, Maria, says, "It's time for you to leave the house." And he's like, "Oh, want to get sushi?" And she's like, "No, I don't think you're understanding." Long story short, she is some sort of elven demon in dominatrix gear. Just because she's a demon does not make it less creepy when the 10-year-old is in dominatrix gear.
Garrett, that's the logic that they try to use in these kind of lolicon moments. Like, I'm an ancient being, so therefore you can sexualize me all you want, even though I look 9 years old.
That's what I've been watching with, like, my wife watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right.
Is they explain a lot of stuff away by being like, "Oh, well, they're really 300 years old."
Nope, not okay, no.
Well, could you at least, like, take over a 30-year-old's body? So, and it turns out that Mio, the busty redhead, is the daughter of a demon lord, and Maria, the small one, reveals there are other creatures, there are gods, there are even heroes, and you need to get out. And Basara's kind of acting dumb, and she uses magic, which pops up on the screen in sort of these, like, ancient glowy ruins, which reminded me of The Magicians, which is a bad show based off of an even worse book, and throws him against the wall, and she's like, you know, we modified your father's memory, we're going to modify yours. Tries to do the Jedi mind trick. Turns out Basara's not quite the pushover, and his hand turns into a GD sword because he's a hero.
Right. He's a hero. And he's like, just get out of my house. He's about to slay these 2 demons, and then he stops and he goes, I don't like that you messed with my dad, but I'm not going to kill you. Out of my house. And, you know, very white knighty about it. And then they leave the house, and
they start to get attacked by demons. And he calls his father, and he says, "Pop, you know, you got to tell me these things." Or no,
you got to tell me that I have demons in my house.
So it turns out his father was in on it the whole time. He was not.
He's a hero.
Anyway, he's a hero. Basara and his father came from a village. They left 5 years ago. They're heroes. And his father knew the backstory of this Mio, who is the daughter of a demon, but she never knew. She only found out a year ago. She was taken away from her father. Her father
was like the demon lord. This guy is like the top demon.
He was a peacemaker in the demon world, whatever the hell that means.
Right.
And so people are gunning for her now. Right. And Basara's father's like, I think we got to watch out for her. And Basara's like, well, what's your reasoning? And he goes, well, I got to go, but I'm going to send you in a message what the reason is. And so he texts him a photo that he took of all of them, saying that they're a family now. So Basara goes out, and he goes to the lookout point, and he finds Mio being attacked. Mio and her sister Maria being attacked by demons, and he comes to the rescue, and he defeats the demons. Now, this is where I was at weird when she was dry humping him, and he walked in.
Right.
When I found out that she was an ancient being, or that she was demon, blah, blah, it got less weird because I said, okay, they're not going to harp on this. I'm going to move away from it.
Right.
And then he saves her and their family. But I never got to the second episode of the show. And I think what you're about to tell me is that, like a buccaneer ship at a theme park, I'm about to swing right back into weird.
That's it, Garrett. So what happens is that we find out that Maria is a succubus. So now the dominatrix 9-year-old is a ancient being that not only is sexualized, but also is powered by sexuality. So she enjoys this kind of stuff. And she's the servant of Mio, who is the daughter of the demon lord. At some point, she decides, she goes, I'm going to need to cast a spell. It's a full moon, so we have to do it tonight, in which we're going to do a master-slave relationship. And they ask the same question. Why would we decide to do this? And she goes, well, what happens? So this makes it so that you always know where each other are, and so that you can keep track of me, who's always going to get attacked. Yes, I know, Garrett, that's the same face. And so he goes, what about cell phones? And she goes, what if you're out of service? What if you're not able to get a signal? What if you do this? Like, she's trying to explain why phones is not a logical idea for this.
Wait, so Mio is trying to get Basara to sign a master servant?
Yes, exactly. And so phones, not a good idea, according to the ancient succubus that's a 9-year-old. And so she starts the spell. And everybody's assuming that Mio is going to be the master and that Basara is going to be the slave. Then all of a sudden, the mark of the master goes on to Basara's hand, and Mio goes, "Wait, I'm the slave?" What? And then all of a sudden, like Maria's like, "Quick! There's a curse is going to go if you don't kiss his hand, which marks the beginning of this pact. Do it now, otherwise a curse is going to go happen." So she's like, I'm not doing that. That's weird, which is a logical response to this woman, who, by the way, over the course of an episode and a half, has been assaulted both sexually or otherwise at least 7 times. And she goes, so all of a sudden, the seal gets dark. And all of a sudden, she's like, she starts writhing in pain. She's on the floor. She goes, by not kissing the mark, you went against your master, and that is a curse that gets put on that. And so now he has to makes you subservient so that you can go back to it. So now she's in a space in which anytime he touches her, she gets this orgasmic rush of just pure bliss. So like arm, chest, and like eventually it gets too much, and she's like, and the succubus is like, keep going, until we get to a point where she's like, Onii-chan! And I remember that was the exact moment I go, nope, I'm done with this. All right, guys, I'll see you.
I'll see you never.
I have breakfast to make tomorrow morning, so all right, I'm gonna get to bed now and take several showers. So yeah, that's what happened in episode 2, Garrett. So to kind of close out here, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this on a scale?
This one gets a sliding scale, and it goes between
like the pioneers.
Yeah, between 7 and 10.
Oh wow! So it gets the point. So you didn't dig the sex thing to a poor like refugee daughter who's being attacked by people all the time. You didn't find that entertaining enough. So let's read the review of this, Garrett.
Of all the shows, I think this is the one I would watch again.
So here we go. My anime list review for Testament of Sister New Level.
Okay.
Basara is your typical self-righteous hero, devoid of personality, an indecisive, apologetic asshat whom lets himself go on the wild on the girl's tits when he damn well pleases. When his sexuality reaches the point where it's brought under question, he gives in to his urges, then he seeks to be comforted by said tits from having gone too far from his manhandling. By the show's end, he's only a few notches away from being another despicable main protagonist character. If only that would have actually been the case. At least he would have been less forgettable. All the girls in the show line up to feed the ego of whoever uses Basara as their surrogate. They exist just to get their breast fondled, or to consistently refer to him as Onii-chan or Baka. A little too delusional, but not to the point of aggravation. Do you agree with that review?
This person's sitting up on a pedestal thinking they're pretty high and mighty.
They don't have a sister New Devil to themselves, so they wouldn't get it. So Garrett, What we're going to do with our Weeb and Noob scores, we normally end out our show. Now that I've already made you need to bleach your eyes out, is we're going to rank this in terms of what, which one you would see again. And also maybe signify there's ones that you would see again. I will start. I would rank this as I like Eromanga the most, mainly because it's newer. I did watch Testament of Sister New Devil, so I'll put that at 2. And OniAi is just too much, too soon, too easy to figure out. Yeah. And I just was over it by the middle of the second episode. So that's, and then would I watch these again? I'd probably watch Eromanga again. It seems like it's still got somewhat of an endearing story. And it's also newer, so the animation's enough to watch. Yep. So where would you go, Garrett, with this?
Number 1 would absolutely be Testament of the Sister New Devil.
Nice.
And it would be because, look, I know from what you just said about the second episode that it's going to go heavy into ecchi. But to me, there's no weird brother-sister thing. They're not even step siblings.
Right.
It's this loose concept of family, and they don't even do it. And I bet you it'd be super interesting about gods and heroes and demons, and would absolutely watch it again. Would get through the weird sexual stuff like I do with any anime you send me, and totally number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 would be Eromanga. It's a little slow moving. I don't know if I can get interested in watching an anime about writing an anime. Pretty much. I don't know if it's for me. Yet again, it's in high school.
Right.
Stop. and then Brother Love should only be watched in a college course where you're studying other cultures and you have an excuse to say, I had to watch this in the name of understanding another culture.
Mutual understanding and friendship, much like Monster Musume, Garrett.
Yeah, because I don't... It's you gave me the links to watch it on YouTube. Right. And even, I know the internet is a dark place. Right. But just even reading comments there and yo, she's thirsty for her brother, yo. And you're like, So knowing that Testament of Sister New Devil is your top one, Eromanga is my top one, let's give this a Weeb and Noob score just to see, is it something you should go out and watch right away, or is it something you really put behind you like we would normally do a score? I would give Eromanga-sensei a 5.5, because I would say, if you're interested in slice of life, if you want to try if you want to see an interesting anime, go for it. I wouldn't say go nuts with it, but I'd give it a 5.5. Well, interesting. I would give Testament of a New Devil sister cousin.
Sister New Devil Testament Sister Devil Sister.
I'd give it a 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that there is enough there. I mean, dude, I know you've watched a lot of anime and played a lot more video games than me. I mean, his freaking arm turns into an armored blade. That's pretty cool. Arm
turns into a sword. That's pretty cool. Yeah. There's enough. There's enough. It becomes like a shonen to cover up the weird etchiness. Yeah. Which I think is interesting. It's the sex slave stuff I had to kind of temper my expectations going forward. So yeah. So I appreciate you swimming in these waters, Garrett. Dipping your toe into it. Mm-hmm. I promise, once again...
By the way, I used, incognito browsers on a VPN in order to,
You're now on a watch list somewhere, who knows? Testament of Mr. Weird Dude. So, once again, I know this was something, always it's good to do, a little dip our toe into ecchi every now and then, because it's there. You can't avoid it. Mm-hmm. So, once again, as you bear with me, we still want to hear your thoughts. In terms of ecchi manga, is there a line you won't cross like we did here with the brother-sister complex? Is there something you've watched that you yourself was like, this is too much for me? Or is it something that you're kind of willing to put aside for the sake of the cultural competence of Japanese anime? Let us know in the comments below, because we really want to know your thoughts. We want to know what is everybody's general opinion about it, especially on the Western side. But before we close off for this week, Gary, do you have any final thoughts before we close off?
Soul hurts.
That's
it's just there's just 2% less soul than there was a week ago.
So Garrett and I are going to go into a Weeb Noob contract with each other before we get cursed. And by giving that, we're going to give you all a nice, have a great week.
Peace out, guys.
Begin your also appropriate relationship with us by pressing that subscribe button.
If you're a brother, ask your sister. If you're a sister, ask your brother, and tell us in the comments below what we should watch next.